Welcome to NextGen Timber, where firewood processing is no longer just about axes, back pain, and long winter days. Here, homemade splitters, hydraulic systems, rotary designs, old-school processors, tractor-powered machines, and modern wood handling setups turn heavy logs into clean firewood with pressure, speed, and smart engineering. Right away, we see what I would call a firewood processing machine that actually gets things done. It is simple, direct, and surprisingly effective. You do not need a complicated control panel or a factory-grade setup to understand what is happening here. The machine takes raw wood, applies force in the right place, and turns hard work into a much faster process. The fact that it is homemade makes it even more impressive. This is not polished showroom equipment. This is practical DIY thinking built for real work. And that is exactly what makes it interesting. Then the scene shifts into the kind of moment where you can feel things going offline. Someone says they are going off the road, and that tells you everything. In forestry and firewood work, the ground matters just as much as the machine. A good processor is useless if the trailer, tractor, or truck cannot stay where it needs to be. One wrong line, one soft shoulder, and suddenly the job becomes recovery work instead of production. Modern technology has changed the forestry industry in a serious way. Splitting firewood like this does not just save time. It reduces physical strain, keeps production moving, and makes long winter preparation far more manageable. On cold days, when every minute outside feels harder, machines like these make a clear difference. What used to take hours of heavy swinging and lifting can now be done with controlled pressure and repeatable output. Then we get a classic, a 1983 firewood processor working beside fresh birch logs with a heavy-duty conveyor and drying system in the background. That is a strong combination. The machine carries old-school durability, but the workflow around it still feels efficient. Logs move in, firewood moves out, and the support equipment keeps the process from turning into a mess. It is a reminder that older machines do not become useless just because newer ones exist. If they are built well, maintained properly, and matched with the right setup, they can still earn their place. The Fax's hydraulic Vedclive 500mm log splitter stands out for a reason. Its design is robust, tested, and clearly built around long-term use. For more than 2 decades, it has been known as one of Sweden's most popular log splitters in its segment, and that kind of reputation does not happen by accident. The materials, components, and structure are all focused on performance and reliability. It can split firewood up to 500 millimeters in diameter, which makes it useful for serious home users and small production work. Still, there is always a trade-off. It may be efficient and easy to use, but speed is still a major factor when large volumes of wood need to be processed. In firewood production, power matters, but pace decides how much work actually gets finished. Then comes a rotary wood splitter that shows real attention to mechanical balance. Slowing the output to 2.5 revolutions per minute and adding support-bearing reinforcement is not just random tinkering. That is someone thinking about safety, control, and machine lifespan. The flywheel is not just another part. It is the heart of the system, storing motion and helping the machine work smoothly. This kind of build is not only about splitting logs. It is about creating something durable enough to keep working for years. Next, the Super Axe wood splitter brings a different kind of value. It is not trying to be the fastest machine in the yard. It is built around easy operation and safety. The leg control design keeps the operator's hands away from the danger zone, and that matters. A splitter that reduces effort while keeping hands clear is not just convenient, it is smart. For kindling or smaller firewood jobs, the lift and drop action keeps things simple, controlled, and low stress. The PME splitter steps in with more serious production energy. With a 16 horsepower, 459 cubic centimeter petrol engine, and a 22-gallon per minute two-stage pump, it is built to handle demanding firewood work. But what makes it more useful is the full system around it. The elevator, disc cleaner, and powered in-feed ring lifter all help streamline the process. That means less lifting, less wasted movement, and more consistent output. A good firewood machine is not only about splitting force. It is about how smoothly the wood moves through every stage. Then we see slabs from the mill that are almost teasing us. They look so close to full boards that you almost want one more cut. But that is part of working with mills like these. Every machine has limits, every log has shape problems, and every cut has to make sense. Sometimes the result is not perfect, but it still becomes useful material. That is the reality of wood processing. A drilling log splitter for tractors then takes over. And this is where tractor power meets focused splitting force. Thick poplar logs go against a rotating drill mechanism that bites into the wood and forces it apart. It looks simple, but the effect is serious. For anyone needing a lot of firewood quickly, this kind of attachment can change the pace of the job. The right tool turns a stubborn log into a manageable split in seconds. Then we meet the Maho Slicer Dicer Firewood Processor, a high-output machine designed to completely change the rhythm of firewood processing. With an 800mm wide slicing blade and 4 smaller dicing blades, it does more than cut. It slices, dices, and turns large logs into uniform pieces with speed and control. The large blade handles the heavy cut, while the smaller blades create consistent firewood sizes. That combination of versatility and output is exactly what modern firewood production needs. Then comes a homemade kinetic splitter, and this one has a different kind of energy. It is not just a tool, it shows how far DIY engineering can go when someone understands motion, force, and timing. The logs pop apart with a rhythm that feels almost addictive to watch. There is speed, impact, and a mechanical snap that makes every split satisfying. It is rougher than a commercial machine, but that is part of the appeal. It feels alive. If wood splitting were a sport, the next homemade machine would be a serious contender. It attacks knots with steady confidence, forcing apart pieces that would make manual splitting miserable. Strong, simple, and oddly satisfying. It shows why homemade equipment has such a strong place in firewood work. A machine does not need a big brand name to prove itself. It just needs to split the wood. Splitting wood with the Super 50 tractor is another impressive sight, especially when it handles beechwood. Beech is dense, heavy, and not always friendly to weak splitters. But with tractor power behind the setup, the job looks far easier than it should. The tractor provides the muscle, the splitter applies the force, and the result is clean firewood without the exhausting manual fight. The hydraulic splitter then shows the classic mix of muscle and machinery. Hydraulics give steady pressure. DIY creativity gives the machine its character. There is something satisfying about watching a homemade processor work properly, because every movement proves that the builder understood the problem. It is not just a pile of parts, it is a working solution. Then comes one of the more creative builds, a Firewood processor using rims to power the system. It is not as polished as a commercial machine, but it delivers where it counts. Repurposed parts, practical thinking, and enough mechanical confidence to make the whole setup work. That is the heart of DIY innovation. It may look unusual, but the output speaks for itself. Wood splitters are a strong blend of technology and manual labor. They turn heavy logs into manageable pieces with precision, speed, and far less strain than traditional splitting. But operator skill still matters. Feeding the wood correctly, keeping hands clear, reading awkward grain, and managing the pace are all part of the job. A splitter is not just a tool. Used properly, it becomes a real productivity upgrade. Then the electric log splitter shows why speed matters. This home-built version can handle logs up to 3 feet long and works much faster than many traditional hydraulic splitters. That is the key advantage. Less waiting, faster cycles, and more wood processed in less time. For small shops, farms, or anyone preparing serious firewood, speed can make the difference between finishing the job and losing the day. The Profi Holzspalter Legend Eigenbau takes homemade splitting to a professional level. With around 30 tons of splitting force, an adjustable splitting cross for meter-long logs, and a lift platform for smoother operation, this machine is built for real production. 2 people splitting around 20 cubic meters in 7 hours is not casual work. That is a serious output number, and it shows what can happen when homemade engineering is done with purpose. Then another hydraulic log splitter shows brute force at work. It handles multiple large logs, splitting them into neat, uniform firewood with controlled pressure. The operator works with precision, keeping the process moving while staying aware of safety. That is the balance every good firewood setup needs. Power is useful, but uncontrolled power is just risk. The best machines deliver force in a way the operator can manage. The vertical log splitter brings another strong example of efficiency. Imagine 16 cubic meters of wood delivered by truck, and within 2 days, only 9 hours of actual work turns 12 cubic meters into split firewood. That is the advantage of having the right machine. The job becomes faster, cleaner, and far less punishing on the body. For large and small jobs, a strong vertical splitter can make the whole process feel controlled instead of exhausting. Finally, we see an old-school log splitter running at normal speed, and it feels like stepping back in time. The design is solid, mechanical, durable, and stable. It does not need flashy electronics or modern styling to prove itself. It represents the old way of building machines: heavy parts, simple movement, and raw mechanical force. That kind of equipment survives because it was built to work, not to look impressive.